So I think President Biden has to upgrade to sort of like FDR's Fireside Chats 2.0. And if you want to pass your infrastructure bill, then I think the president should do two things, and he should sort of do them back to back. Maybe one night do one thing, and next night do the other thing. But first, he needs to do a televised town hall meeting with all the nation's governors from all 50 states and all territories of the United States. That's number one. Because often territories hold military bases, right? And maybe military bases need to be a part of our understanding of our nation's infrastructure. It's definitely our defense infrastructure, but infrastructure. So that's why I think all the nation's governors should be a part of this. And a town hall meeting, I should say, where governors present questions to the president. Maybe the president doesn't have the answer, the technical answer, but he would have his cabinet there who could provide technical questions. How much it's going to cost, what their, I don't know how a certain canal runs. How that canal runs there and always floods during hurricane season. Well, we like to have the Army Corps of Engineers come in and fix that and protect from flooding to local communities, stuff like that, and maybe the snake invasion in what you call it in Florida, where these pythons are growing massively and taking over the ecosystem. Maybe that is a part of an infrastructure build, like in the nation's parks, I should say. And then on a regional level, like Amtrak/commuter rails in the Northeast, so governors would be a part of all of this, and the cabinet members say, this is what we sort of envision for that area, and this is the funding, and how long it would take, and what we'd have to do, and we could loosen environmental impacts, but of course we don't want really things that really impact our environment. We truly want to help nature be clean at all times. I guess I want to say our nation's parks and natural byways and highways. Um, so he does it that way, and make sure it's televised, so the whole world, instead of FDR had the radio, now you have television. Make sure it's televised on every channel. So the president and his cabinet present the $2.2 trillion to nation's governors. Nation's governors ask questions. I think that it would show the American people just the scope of what we need to do and how we're going to do it and how we're going to move the country forward. It would put the nation's governors in the hot spot, that they would hear what the president would say. They would get assurances that maybe some of this stuff is block grant money on maybe a regional basis. Maybe infrastructure banks bringing broadband out to rural communities through the post office. Maybe even the post office turning into working with state banks. Maybe the creation of some state infrastructure banks, or some sort of state financial institution that will be able to work with post offices to bring banking to rural areas where big banks don't go as well. But definitely rural internet, and you build the telecommunications off of that. And also, we have this great infrastructure of oil or gasoline, gas stations everywhere. How do we convert them, or a portion of them, to EV gas stations? So we have a national network of EV stations, and how do we bring that technology forward, and how do we make it more renewable and not based off of gas? And sort of that's what infrastructure bill should be. And you explain that to nation's governors and the American people, and then you present it to people who have to make the final decision, Congress. And maybe that's a joint, using your executive authority, a joint session of Congress with the nation's governors in the galley as visitors, and you discuss with the joint session of Congress what you discussed with the governors, and you heard their concerns, but the American people need this now to build a better infrastructure to create jobs, create prosperity, shared prosperity, uh, and just present it that way, and also explain about corporate taxes. That right now corporations only pay 7% of total income into the coffers of the United States, where one time it was 35%. So areas of revenue that don't impact Main Street that much, but may impact Wall Street. And Wall Street has a ton of money when you think that 70% of our what you call it, 70% of our GDP is somehow connected to financial services. So you're just taking a little bit on the top to pay for, not only what it pays now, but infrastructure. You gave 1.7 trillion away in taxes. I think we saw that we were premature in that, and maybe we need to take that back again. But explain it to the American people, explain it to the governors, then build pressure on Congress to pass your infrastructure bill. And then you can point in 2022 to those people who did not think of the people first, did not think of infrastructure first, did not think of the nation ahead of their own interests. And that's the president that Joe Biden should be. If he, truly wants to sort of unite the people, show how maybe certain people, independent of political party, are not voting in the best interests, for jobs and things of that nature. So be a 21st century FDR with your fireside chats with a televised town hall and televised joint session of Congress. But I think that's the best way to put pressure on Congress to pass your infrastructure bill.